GM everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond PFPs, brought to you by OSPN, the Open Source People's Network. This podcast is in partnership with the Rari Foundation, which is the DAO behind the Rarible protocol and the Rari chain. The Rari chain, which recently launched, introduces a platform with embedded royalties, low transaction fees, and high transaction speed. It's designed to support creators and developers in the NFT space, ensuring fair compensation and broadening the potential for NFT applications. Now, Beyond PFPs is a podcast that is all about exploring the depth of NFTs beyond digital collectibles, highlighting their impact and within various industries. And today we're discussing how Web3 will disrupt real-world assets. We're here with Drew Harding, the founder of Peach Tycoon, a seasonal NFT farming game where players can earn and or sell boxes of real peaches. And we also have Ryan, the founder of Foam Space, a project that is providing on-chain location proofs over radio built on the OP stack. Glad to have you guys on for an episode of Beyond PFPs. Now, my first question here I have is for Drew. Drew, what inspired the creation of Peach Tycoon, and how did you guys get started?
I've always had an agricultural itch. Worked in various capacities for decades, both in the cannabis industry, and then most recently we moved out to Western Colorado and purchased like a 8-acre farm, and we're raising all sorts of different crops, heritage hog, chicken, stone fruit. We have a vineyard, tons of different types of produce. But where we're located is this amazing valley. It's kind of more of a desert climate, which leads to these really hot days and really cold nights. And that diurnal shift creates incredible sugars, fruit sugars. Hence, we have thousands of peach orchards and vineyards, kind of the primary agricultural focus out here. And this little area has kind of become world renowned for the peaches that they grow. And personally, I've always been really interested in trying to introduce the food sovereignty conversation and narrative into Web3. We talk about sovereignty a lot in the space, but usually it's from a financial or fiscal perspective. And there's also this kind of crossover being a big like Taoist, where a lot of these employee owned and operated farms I could honestly consider some of the first DAOs. They just really didn't need a lot of the crypto Web3 tech because they all know where each other is. Trust is local. And so there's this also really interesting kind of crossover in formation and operation of like farms and farming and these cooperatives and collectives. And it was, I was working with a friend, a co-founder, Sam, who's also on the chat, and who moved out to this area as well. And we were chatting about, hey, why don't we see if we can, create something where we can actually, deliver peaches for an NFT. So last year we did a simple kind of buy an NFT and receive a box of peaches. And we had this fun kind of generative peach art created by Waxbones. Upon redemption, it reveals the pit. Big bite comes out. I'm actually wearing a shirt, which you guys on Twitter Spaces can't see. But this year we decided to take it up a notch and kind of create this light gamified version called Peach Tycoon, where you purchase a tree and kind of have this proxy farming experience, including watering, pruning, fertilizing, kind of all the things you need to consider when you're actually growing peaches. And you can earn more or less peaches that you can directly redeem, or we're going to have an open marketplace where all the tree owners that earn peach boxes can actually list their peaches and sell to others to enjoy. So that's kind of the idea behind it. We're taking kind of this step-by-step way of introducing, again, this food sovereignty narrative and see how we can expand and kind of create these long term would be these, localized, decentralized food networks, and leveraging Web3 tech and all the fun stuff that we can do with it. So
Are you interested in building NFTs that'll disrupt traditional industries? You can get started by using Rarible Protocol. It's an open source cross chain NFT protocol that's community governed. You can check out the code on GitHub and then request an API key at rarible.org. No matter what NFT project you intend on building, Rarible Protocol equips you with the necessary tools to turn your ideas into reality. If you like the fact that the Rarible Protocol is community governed, consider joining the Rari Foundation, which is the DAO behind the protocol. Joining the Rari Foundation offers you the opportunity to help shape the future of NFT infrastructure. If you're looking to engage in governance and vote on key decisions, you can become a delegate by joining community calls and participating on forum, which will boost your reputation and help you earn some voting power through our delegate incentive program. If you'd like to learn more about the community, visit rari.foundation and then join the Discord server and begin joining our calls and making connections with the community. A community that is all about supporting creators. The Rari Foundation demonstrated how much they support NFT creators by creating the Rari chain to make sure that royalties are embedded at the node level, ensuring that creators always receive royalties from secondary sales. By building on Rari Chain, you're safeguarded by a system that respects and protects creator earnings. Learn more about Rari Chain at rarichain.org. With Rari, you're joining a movement focused on decentralized governance, innovation, and creator empowerment. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, man, I love the fact that you brought up that there's other areas of sovereignty that we need to be paying attention to, because, like, when you think about the space initially, we always talk about financial sovereignty, but health is wealth, and it's like you got to make sure you take care of that first. And the fact that you're really focusing on food sovereignty really commend you on that, because yeah, I'm somebody that always pay attention to like the ingredients of what I eat, and our food supply is pretty jacked up in America, so like being
definitely,
able to play a role into, yeah, and like understanding like what's in our food supply, or like how it was cared for, and doing it in a way that embodies the Web3 ethos and being open and transparent, and that's gonna be major. And I would love to see more adoption, around that. So really appreciate that you guys have gone so far, with Peach Tycoon, and hope that it inspires others as well.
for sure.
And Ryan from Foam Space, what inspired the creation of Foam Space, and also how did you guys get started?
Yeah, we've been around for quite a while, and kind of coming from a background in architecture, both of myself and two co-founders. And at the time when kind of Ethereum was just coming online back in 2015. So we were pretty excited about like the intersection of the physical world and blockchains. Kind of one of the earliest ideas was what we call the spatial index. You could kind of like a cross between a Bloomberg terminal and a Google Maps. And so kind of like what Drew was just talking about, if you start to have these like spatial indicators of value on chain, like, we have this farm or this tree is producing this much yield. So if you could like look basically at Google Maps, but it's kind of like a blockchain financialized. So we were very early in being excited about that. And there were some folks actually trying to do a project called FarmCoin back in the day. It's definitely too early. So this is really exciting updates, Drew. I got to get started proxy farming. But yeah, so we were just excited about like the potential of blockchains in the physical world, but then more specifically started to realize like the vulnerabilities of GPS and how easy it is to spoof or lie about location. And we were talking in the pre-show like Pokemon Go spoofing, but we've talked to people early in Uber, and like whenever they did promotions, like drivers could collude and cheat to get more out of it. And in just more recent years, kind of in a nation state level, this infrastructure is more vulnerable. So very early being just excited about the cross between like maps, physical space, blockchain, and then we start talking to these like Byzantine fault tolerant Bitcoin type people, and they're like, that's going to be spoofable, that's going to be hackable. So we started to research, how those systems really work, and saw there was space for a protocol that could provide a proof of location. And so that's what we're working on now. Long journey, but it's a hardware based project. And for this podcast or Twitter Spaces, like when we generate these proofs of location as a user over radio, you can actually then mint it as an NFT. And the idea is you can then use that in a different app or a game or supply chain. So
Mhm.
really like the theme here of going beyond profile pictures and what NFTs can unlock. And so yeah, we just
Mhm.
had a background being excited about coming from architecture, physical world, and it seems like 2024 now is the time when that stuff's really able to come together.
Yeah, tokenized T-bills are cool and all, but I'm excited to see where we can go beyond just recreating, assets on chain, and really unlock new opportunities.
Yeah, man, most definitely. And just thinking about all of the use cases that could be built on top of home space as well. Like since you're providing proof of a location, I wonder like will eventually like if someone will create a more decentralized version of Uber, for an example, where like ride shares like completely peer to peer, or like maybe you can even like select like a like you're like a designated driver, like somebody that's going to be like let's say because like on Uber you don't know who your driver is going to be, or like perhaps you can actually like hire a driver for like a certain amount of time or like to drive you like throughout the day and then utilize foam space infrastructure for such an application. That would be pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah, kind of an edge case, but we may have all experienced it where the Uber starts taking a route that makes no sense, and you're like, "What's happening?" And
Yeah.
then they're running up the fare, for example. So in like kind of
Mhm.
enforcing these things, it could be like if the Uber has to check in every 5 blocks or something to like get its full payment, it would like have to prove it like took like the fastest path or something like that, so you didn't get stuck in the cap. That's kind of an edge case, but yeah, if you had kind of coverage and these systems in place, there's a lot you can start to unlock. So
Mhm. Oh, for sure. Now jumping back into Peach Tycoon, Drew, I see that there's a leaderboard on the website. And what does the leaderboard represent, and how can people begin earning points for Peach Tycoon?
Yeah, we decided to create essentially like a farmer's pot, which is we take a small percentage of all the on-chain transactions and put it into this collective pool. And the best farmers, but by those that are participating the most and taking the best care of their trees, can earn largest share or a share of that pot. So you get higher percentage or points for fertilizing, pruning. We'll have spray, like pest spray and maintenance coming up, and then watering is essentially just like a daily action that you can kind of just click. There's no real like on chain, but essentially the most engaged are rewarded accordingly. So
Nice. And how does that work? Because you mentioned pruning. So like you're essentially a proxy farmer through the game, right? So like,
right.
what is that experience like when you're like pruning through the game? Like how does that all tie into each other?
Yeah, it's really light gamification. It's essentially some of them are times window specific. We're kind of trying to follow the actual cycles of when you should prune. When is that no longer beneficial? Fertilization. Well, you can only water once a day. These types of things. But there's we are obviously taking care of our trees as they need regardless but
Right.
we're providing essentially a way for people who are more engaged to again benefit from being so and kind of learn about the like
Mhm.
farming needs and orchard needs as they go. So
Nice. So they're able to like get a better understanding of what goes into it, like to managing farmland. And then also, is it possible like if somebody wanted to contribute and like actually um provide some manpower for the farm, is that possible? Or maybe in the future, or
great
like
question.
what's
Yeah.
some of your thoughts on like expansion?
Yeah, would love to be able to do that. There is obviously a ton of care goes into taking care of these trees, especially pruning, thinning, and harvesting are definitely the most labor intensive. Um, we are not really set up yet, but we'll probably be building an opportunity for digital nomads or people who want to come out, spend some time in kind trade for possibly rent for putting in some time on the farm. And it's not
That's
just
awesome.
like orchard work for us. We have, we're taking care of all sorts of crops and whatnot. But yeah, the hope would really be to unlock that opportunity beyond just our farm too, where we can actually facilitate the ability for people who want to learn about these things, get closer to their food, possibly learn how to become a farmer or take care, raise a specific crop themselves, to come out, connect with farmers, do essentially a light internship, or at least spend a month and just hang out while you're doing your other work. And that's all part of this larger vision. But it's, having been through, founded, and worked with a number of projects myself, learned a lot about when you kind of jump in full bore and try and take on everything that really needs to
Yeah.
happen, especially with creating these like decentralized, localized food networks and connecting consumers and farmers. It's a lot. So we're trying to take these like baby steps. We're trying to keep it fun, and light, as a way to kind of introduce the narrative, and then slowly expand as we see the space mature, the technology mature, the demand is actually there. But there are programs
Mhm.
outside of kind of the Web3 and crypto space that facilitate these types of things. And I think, layering in again Web3 tech and everything we can do just is going to provide additional benefits, both managerial, organizationally, but also all the speculative fun tools, gamification. Farming and is one of those things similar to like teaching and others that are not rewarded the way they should be for their impact and the benefit to society.
Mhm.
So any way we can really help to bring, kind of elevate that, but also introduce a new generation to the importance of farming and like the fun.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's incredibly rewarding, literal fruits of your labor. So these are all things that we'd love to explore and push on, but little by little. So
Yeah, I mean, farming is probably like easily one of the most impactful industries like in the world. So, um, and there's a few different foods that I would love to learn how to farm, specifically superfoods like spirulina. Would love to like actually be the source of my own spirulina. 'Cause I've seen like there was a point where I was actually working on a superfood beverage at one point before I got into crypto. I wanted to create some beverages that will nourish different glands within your endocrine system. I was starting off with the pituitary gland, but oh, I'm sorry, not pituitary gland. I was starting off with the thyroid gland, and then I was going to work my way up and down different glands within your system. But as I was learning how to do so, or like how to like where to source ingredients for the beverage, like certain superfoods that was really high in selenium, like spirulina for an example. And but I realized that certain places you didn't necessarily want to get your spirulina from because of the environment that we're in. So it'd be nice to play a role in knowing exactly how it was treated for, and at least like you guys are making it in a way where it's fun. How maybe even one day people could learn how to proxy farm, like algae and stuff like that, like spirulina and chlorella.
for sure. Yeah, there's so many social benefits from being able to it connect people and unlock these things, like even just like the neighbor to neighbor, and people set up a 4x8 plot in your backyard or throw up a greenhouse and share that food, work with your neighbors to
Hmm.
swap that stuff, and you know kind of try and get off the reliance on mass production as much as we really can. A lot of that is hugely needed, especially in certain areas, but I think there's also so much that could be done, and you see it in certain countries where their yards are gardens. They don't have just grass, and everybody
Hmm.
has like a level of self-sufficiency as a result. So
Yeah, and just embodying community in general, not just like sitting at at our computers, but actually, being amongst members of the community. And my next question here for Ryan in regards to foam space, how can people begin contributing there as well? Like, how can someone become a location provider? for foam space, and what kind of tools are necessary in order to participate in your incentivized testnet?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we've been running kind of a beta program that has a wait list, so you can join that. But to kind of jump ahead of the wait list, we've been looking for, well, previously in the beta, we were testing like anywhere we could get because we only had one network up in Brooklyn. So we're like, okay, we need to see how this works. So we have a bunch of rural locations in Texas. We have a network in San Diego. But now that we've built out our MVP on the optimism stack, we're looking to have zones where they can overlap with use cases. So essentially, if you had either a use case in mind or just the ability to host a zone in an area where people can access it, the general requirements are like rooftop access and like line of sight between the radios. So to form like a high quality zone, you need like 3 to 4 that have a good line of sight to each other, but then you could expand the zone with more. Then they don't need to all be on roofs at that point. So we have like a plug and play version of our hardware, and we have 100 manufactured that are going out to like people eligible to be in these high quality zones. So they're not for sale yet, but they can be obtained essentially. But otherwise, on the user side, you can get a mobile node from us and essentially start testing out proof of location. So we have a network in Brooklyn, as I mentioned. We're going to have one going up in Austin for the Consensus Conference at the end of May. There's also the one in San Diego that they're planning a kind of King of the Hill leaderboard event for checking in at the zone in May in San Diego. So there are multiple ways to get involved, either if you wanted to host a zone and try and run the radio. We're agnostic to like power and internet. So if you have power and internet, you can plug it in. If you don't, we have people using solar panels and Starlink even. So in terms of how you power it or get internet, we're agnostic. So there's different ways that it could be set up at a farm even. In terms of interacting with the token, we recently moved some onto the Optimism blockchain and have liquidity in the Velodrome pool. And yeah, these MVPs will be moving on those chains, and there'll be calls for testing in New York, specifically Austin and San Diego. But if you would like a new location and you want to host a zone, you could reach out to us.
Okay, cool. So it's that simple, just to reach out to you for your zone. Oh, I'm sorry, you got a question, Drew?
I was just gonna like kind of try and bring these narratives together. Has anyone in like the agricultural like space talked to you guys yet around, because people, where your food comes from is such a critical thing, and then layering that in with soil quality or weather, information would be incredibly informative and valuable from my perspective. I'm just keen if anyone has kind of talked to you on that topic before.
Definitely talked about, but not specifically in the food industry. And so I think smart ag tech and the value of having like these assurances about your food is definitely an amazing fit for foam. In the past, when we looked more in like regenerative agriculture, it was kind of like the chicken and egg of like the cost to set up the system is not worth the cost of making sure a guy came and checked on this tree,
Right.
kind of thing. But I think when you start tapping into food quality, but also like kind of the machinery potentially or tractors that maybe you would want to track on those sites as well. But then if you have a sensor that's some sort of soil quality measurer and it sends out once a day or whatever and signing cryptographically to a foam proof of location network, you can add extra data. So it's like I have my certificate that this sensor is actually where it is, and this is the quality of the soil that it's sitting in.
That's super exciting. We need to talk for sure beyond this, because we have all those monitors running. We have like weather data. And obviously
awesome.
we're just like, small market farmer, but at the same time, if we can create a proof of concept that others can run with, that's kind of the whole goal here, is inspire a million more, people to explore these things and think about it differently. So
so I guess Drew is asking how to get involved. Like we're at the stage where we have this MVP on chain, and it's just like proving your location. There's a full app, but we're now like looking for collaborations for partnerships and proof of concepts where it's taken us all these time and effort to build the system where you can prove your location. So now let's get to the exciting like use cases, and definitely ones that can grow mindshare or really just like demonstrate, this isn't only useful if like GPS goes down or someone hacks it. Like this is also a way that you can like have attestations that bridge the physical world, start to like interact with on-chain economies. Maybe it could trigger payments and really be part of like a smart contract flow as opposed to just using blockchain just for tokens for paying people for.
Mhm.
Doing on-chain splits based on that data back to farmers specifically, or based on region. Like there's all sorts of really cool things that can unlock there.
I have a question for Drew. Not to jump ahead of the host, but
Mhm.
could you
It's all
like
good.
maybe like just say like about the like as beyond PFPs, like how the NFT actually functions in the Peach system, or what like future thoughts there could be for like dynamic NFTs, or how it relates to like what's happening on the farm?
Sure. Yeah, they are dynamic in from like a state perspective. So the trees have three states. We had the dormant tree. Currently they're in bloom, so they're like showing their blossoms, and then they'll move into actual fruiting and whatnot. Tree obviously just representative of a tree, which guarantees two peach boxes. As you farm more ad boosts, you can earn more or less peaches. And then we have NFTs that represent the peach boxes themselves. And you'll receive essentially like a generative peach NFT, but upon redemption, that has two states as well. Upon redemption, it kind of takes a big bite out of the peach and it exposes a pit with a bunch of different like funky pit designs, a Pepe, 8 Ball, Comet, all sorts of fun stuff. And then so that also allows the tree farmers themselves to relist those peaches in kind of our marketplace and sell them. So there's kind of like a market in our market. And yeah, it's basically like a representative one-to-one redemption. We would love to introduce additional layers, more crops. The hope would be like an entire on-chain kind of Farmville game, but the real end goal would really be to also create networks between different kind of food baskets and different regions and allow there to be some sort of like localized, decentralized aspect to this. But that's again like a whole nother step. And then, the economic layers that exist or can exist there. Example of that is there's a token called Oak that is essentially a token that works within the Oakland farmers market. And they have essentially created this localized economy within that farmers market and for all those vendors and consumers. And there's all these perks, cashbacks, discounts, that type of stuff. So you can create kind of these economic benefits and scale by connecting what are disparate farms or different areas or regions. So um, yeah, where we'll use NFTs, where we'll use fungible tokens, there's yet to be seen. But yeah, hope is to keep kind of pushing down the narrative.
Yeah,
Did,
man. What you guys are building towards is awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. You were saying something there, Drew?
I was just gonna say I wasn't sure if that answered his question or yeah.
No, yeah, really, really awesome and exciting. Uh, cool that they're already dynamic.
Yeah, and we could, if we were to say introduce other crops or different regions outside of where we're directly located, layering in something like foam, so we could actually, your peach came from here, this farm, or your, this
Mhm.
region, or this crop or whatever. So there's lots of unlocks in terms of additional attestations and metadata that could be layered into this for sure.
Yeah, that'll be nice to actually know exactly where your crops are coming from, and seeing how foam can tie into this all. And then Drew, this is a more abstract question, but like, what ways do you see Web3 infrastructure playing a role in decentralizing land ownership in general?
Huge. In fact, we've been talking with a couple of teams that are primarily focused on that unlock. It is primarily a legal and or regulatory challenge. I think token. We're already seeing numerous kind of tokenized marketplaces for property. Um, there is kind of an irony here in that the entire Howey test, which securities are determined by, was originally a orange grove or orchard situation where people were buying basically shares in an orchard, and benefiting financially from it, but not directly participating. But I think there are lots of interesting ways of introducing that or solving that problem where DAO can collectively manage, decide who is maintaining, making decisions around the operations of said farm that would essentially assuage any of those concerns, or at least from the regulator's perspective. But yeah, I think like tokenized land makes a ton of sense. And then being able to use all the on-chain DeFi infrastructure to be able to actually, grab that liquidity, make it or that equity rather, make it liquid, and be able to take loans against, be able to actually turn what has traditionally been a rather illiquid asset into a liquid
Mhm.
asset, and create new possibilities for that. So I think we're already starting to see it. We're going to see even more. You layer in the kind of the farming thing where it's actually productive land. It's not just like a house or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And being able to use that to create, both investment opportunities, but also collectives around people who are, remotely or but communally managing, um, you know, a orchard, a farm, a forest, any sort of kind of a ongoing productive kind of asset in that sense. But
Yeah, so I see. Yeah, you brought up some interesting stuff, especially like when it comes to like the equity in your home, for an example, like allowing for that to be liquid is nice instead of it's like because like right now it's just locked, can't really do much with it.
or there's just a lot of hoops and headaches, and to jump through to
Hmm.
unlock that, and it's typical tradfi headaches. But I
Yeah.
think being able to unlock that liquidity, or that equity, and make it liquid more easily, more immediately, and being able to tap into global markets, in order to
Mm.
take advantage of that. These are all kind of the underlying unlocks that Web3 and the crypto space can provide.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be so much iteration that comes from this, but just the availability to do this, I think, is very impactful, and just to get people thinking beyond art when it comes to NFTs and how we could really disrupt so many industries, especially like through land ownership and real estate. We're tackling finance, like pretty much the main industries that make up, at least our country, for an example, is pretty much real estate and banking. So we're tackling banking, but I would like to see real estate, being be disrupted too.
The other hope is there's so many people who have been priced out of ownership, home land ownership.
Oh hell
And
yeah! Uh-huh.
if we can actually create tools and opportunities to help rebalance that, I think is going to be a really important, because I hate seeing kind of, the some of the most productive farmland, for instance, being rolled up into the deeper pockets, the 1%, and really just being consolidated and mass market farmed, and we're losing control over, our, the production quality, the everything related to,
Mhm.
that stuff, let alone, apartments, condos, just, suburban property. So I think, yeah,
Mhm.
there's that social issue, I think, that we really can solve too through some of this tooling. So
Yeah, most definitely. And this like conversation almost leading into network states, and then we could even do another episode on that, like
it it,
really
it
going deep
always
on it.
does, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And my next question here is for Ryan. So, in what ways can decentralized proof of location be used to disrupt traditional industries? So, I see the ability to redefine the supply chain, for an example, but may you elaborate on how that can be done through foam space and explain how foam space could be used by different types of businesses?
Yeah, for sure. I think like we earlier touched on kind of like gaming or NFTs, but location touches so many industries. I think insurance along with supply chain is one that would have a large impact. So I can give like a made up micro example before going deeper. So you could just like imagine you're on a train platform and the train's not there and it's your boarding time. If you could just like, generate a proof of location, you maybe could get like some sort of automatic rebate on your ticket because the train's not there and your day is now disrupted and you're late. So you can kind of expand that to then like equipment or high value assets. So like something like cat construction tractors, those are like subleased out to people. And it's like a big problem, probably not one many people think about, but people then break the contract and sublease it out to someone else. So the ultimate owner of this equipment actually doesn't know where their equipment is at any given time, because people are stabbing them in the back and releasing it. And so on like supply chain, in terms of like ports, like a certain percent of assets or even equipment is just like written off as lost or stolen. That just happens often. You have situations where stuff is like so big where people like manually are like walking through a train yard looking for like the train car that didn't get connected and things like that. But where like maybe the nomenclature overlaps is like the notion of a free trade zone. Not that I'm necessarily a fan of them, but they're all around the world and kind of like tax-free entities where you can like store art or take imports, exports. But in at least America, they have something called a zone-to-zone transfer. So if I get something sent to a free trade zone in New York, but I actually want it to be in like Kansas, I could like get like a loophole where I can transfer my stuff from that zone, free trade zone, to this free trade zone in Kansas and still not pay the import export taxes. It's kind of a loophole, but just kind of these like high value asset transfers, maybe is where you're starting, where there's actually like reason someone would want to pay a fee or have extra equipment to know where stuff is at any given time. And that already happens. So you have GPS-based companies. GPS is a big battery drainer. GPS could be interfered or spoofed. So there is like kind of a market that already exists of alternative positioning and asset tracking. So where this would be different is like you have cryptographic signatures, you have things going on chain. And so just adds like an extra layer of security, but as well as like freedom for the user. You're not just like locked into some single vendor and their like AWS dashboard. This data is now like part of this blockchain, or you could like utilize it as an asset, like if they're NFTs and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of work to do in terms of like business development of like integrating in existing supply chain systems. But I think parametric insurance is one as well, and just proving where assets were and payouts and things. And so I think insurance is one of the earlier industries that's going to be on chain before like full on supply chain. You talk to some of these major international companies and they don't even use the cloud yet in some instances. So there's a big jump to make in some of those legacy industries.
Yeah, I see that this project in particular is it's a very solid use case for getting Web 2 companies into Web 3. Like it's a great way to onboard the legacy world and into using our technology. And something I wanted to understand a bit more was like how you said like GPS right now could be, you could spoof it, you could spoof location, but like can you elaborate on like how your location can't be spoofed if it's recorded on chain via foam space?
Yeah, so the reason GPS is so easy to spoof is that the system is like one directional. So the satellites are sending information to Earth, and you can use those signals to locate yourself, but the satellites don't know anything about you. So there's no like talking back to the satellites, there's no authentication. So when I go into my Apple Dev Tools, I can just tell my phone I'm somewhere else, and then Pokemon Go doesn't know anything. So you can kind of become the man in the middle and always just like on your phone kind of change it. So what's different in our system is you actually talk back to the system. So you have a zone of coverage. It's kind of like a local GPS. As a user, whether I'm a machine or a person, I have my radio. It's connected to my Ethereum wallet. I sign it over radio. There's a counter signature. In our app, it pops up. It tells you which other zone anchors saw you and signed it, and then you can mint it. So essentially, because of this cryptographic signing and that there's a counter signing, and that there you have that other entity saw you, witnessed you, accessed you, is what gets bundled and put on chain. So essentially, it was very hard to cheat the system without the system colluding and putting in fake data, and then that's where kind of crypto economics and verification come in. But on a high level, like you basically wouldn't be able to get your claim in the zone's logs without sending data over radio. The only way to do that would be to be near the zone physically.
Something else came to mind as you were bringing that up. Like, how certain applications ask for your location,
Yeah.
and then you share that information with them, and then God knows who else has access to that information as well.
Yeah.
Like what third party they sold that to. So, like, let's say if an application asks for your location, but you use foam space instead, or like you use a Web3 version of sharing your location. Is there a way that like I don't assume that it functions like this yet. I could be wrong, but like, could you use zero knowledge proofs to make sure that your location data is not just going to like third parties?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the benefits of like the OP stack we're building on and the modularity of how different systems can be built in. So there's a future where like everything in foam is ZK'd, but you could already do your example today in the sense that there's another project called ZK Maps, and they had like a ZK circuit on Polygon on chain. So you could like share your location in like a generalized area, but it would like obfuscate like the very specific point you're at. But where that one fell short was it's still the user inputting it. So I could share with you and hide my location and give you a general area, but you don't know if I'm lying. I could not even be there at all. So you could already like basically take their proof of concept and tie it with my presence claim. And that's kind of like the generic ZK example, because I've gone to so many conferences and talks. They're like, I'm entering a bar and I want to prove I'm over 21, but I don't want to tell them my exact birth date. Use this. So you can kind of take that logic, and then you have your presence claim. You want to basically authenticate with another app, but you don't want them to like have read access to the exact coordinate or timestamp, but through that kind of proving service. Yeah, that's definitely a use case. And foam is meant to be opt-in, where today a lot of apps, without your knowledge exactly, are mining your location data.
Yeah, because I don't mind like if I had to share my location with something like Uber, obviously, or Uber Eats, DoorDash, something like that. But I just don't want my data being shared to like third parties, because then you don't know what the third party is going to do with your data, and unfortunately, it can end up on the dark web, for an example. So like being able to obfuscate that would be really nice.
VPNs for the win.
Absolutely. And all right, so another question I have for Peach Tycoon. This is pretty much wrapping it up here for you for this episode. Want to pretty much understand the ultimate goal that each of you have for your projects. So I'll start with you, Drew, for Peach Tycoon. What is your ultimate goal for the project, and what are you really aiming to accomplish? And also, how can people become contributors to this project as well? Will there be a DAO in the future? Can people volunteer as well to manage land?
Yeah, definitely touched on this a little bit already. I think like the hope would be to, at a high level, really introduce the food sovereignty conversation into the space. More specifically, leveraging crypto economics and retooling to provide more information and insight to where your food's coming from. Also, fiscal benefit to the farmers that are doing it and providing it. The hope would be, I think, we are able to create again or link and unify these localized kind of food baskets and create a network of participants and farmers and consumers that are all basically sharing some economic unifying, whether that be, a token. And that also is like kind of creating this system outside of the system and a way for people to have more information, get direct access, and to your point, potentially even get involved directly. Come learn, come farm, come see the farm, as much or as little as you really like to do.
You're bringing farming tokens to a whole new level.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the hope would really be to create, like a true, tokenized network.
We're going to reinvent the labor force, where people are going to come and dig trenches and plant trees and then get paid.
First, you got to have people who want to do that work, which is the first challenge. But also to that point, inspire a new generation of farmers. Like, I would say, I don't know the exact statistics, but I would say like 80% of farmers are, 50 to 60 plus years old. We are definitely
Mm,
losing both interest and incentive for people to do that. So if something like this can bring new benefit fiscally, but also, open new doors from a lifestyle perspective as well, I think there's huge benefits to that. Um, Definitely want to introduce some DAO components, get the community more involved in helping to drive, decide, and steer what we're doing. And obviously, that will become a critical component at the point where we're actually working with other farmers, other farms, other food baskets, and networks of kind of farming locations. So I think
mhm.
we want to, crawl, walk, run into this and really kind of introduce the potential and do it in a kind of light, fun way to start. But these are all, big hopes and aspirations. And if nothing else, if we inspire others to do similar things and, kind of take up this charge, it's a win for us as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the vision that you guys have. And then it'll be nice too to onboard people from certain locations where they grow the best crops for certain things. Like some superfoods that come to mind is like baobab, and I don't know that grows the best in Africa. Uh, it'll be interesting to get some coffee farmers too, like
Totally.
involved.
Yeah. There's a lot of industries like that where there are smaller farmers who put a ton of care, and the quality is definitely reflected in, say, coffee beans. Whereas there's also
Hmm.
mass produced farms that they don't really care the stuff they're spraying. And most of the time, the consumer, unless they're doing, their own research, is kind of unaware of
Hmm.
that stuff. And I think
Right.
if you care about that stuff and or you want to support the people who are taking those steps, because that's what influences the larger farmers to be more conscious about how they're doing that as well. So it's
Hmm.
it's yeah, one thing influences the other, and we kind of have to both educate consumers to be more conscious, help culturally change some mindset from value over price, which is a very Western thing. And especially when it's something that you're consuming and can directly impact your health, that can become pretty important.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
Hmm.
then obviously benefit the farmers and help to incentivize them to do their best work. So
Yep. And then the farmers within your network could provide um, goods for even like producing other items like let's say cereal for an example. I know something that's like an ingredient that's really bad is I think it's trisodium phosphate, I believe, or it is there's like a particular ingredient that's in cereal that's like a paint thinner, correct?
yeah, I mean, if you can't pronounce it or it's a hard to pronounce, you probably shouldn't be ingesting it.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of regulatory skirting of and
Um,
additives is being put in. Mostly it's preservatives, because of shelf life
mhm.
things. But if we can
Right.
create a way for consumers to get access to fresh food more easily,
Mhm.
that can help to assuage some of that stuff. And yeah, less plastic bags and boxes and more direct
Mhm. Yeah.
raw fruit and veggies and the good stuff. So
Mhm. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't even bring up plastics yet. That's a huge issue with with our food and beverage supply. I mean, because those plastics leaks like a certain form of estrogen. How they like I forgot like the exact terminology, but there's like I think it's xenoestrogens or something like that that get leaked into the food. So yeah, just the way that it's even packaged is terrible. So like being able to get access to the food, like I guess we gotta figure out a way to like package it. Effect like how do you go like how would you like suggest packaging certain items?
honestly, like cardboard boxes are great. Um, there's considerations though. Like we also have to like deal with the realities of when we're shipping you a peach box. We use like these foam inserts in order to ensure they're not getting banged around. They're arriving in
Hmm.
good condition. These are very perishable items. We would love
Yeah.
to be able to reduce that kind of both carbon footprint waste of of materials in order to do so. But again, step by step. So yeah, I think being able to actually create a more of a network that's localized and people can actually be connecting with their farmers directly, or in a big vision, actual neighborhood gardeners are able to communicate, benefit, and work together. If you're growing tomatoes, your neighbor's growing cucumbers, swap.
Hell
The
yeah.
lady down the street's got a beehive. Whatever it is, I think that there's also, again, huge social benefit in being able to like bring together neighborhoods and communities that you know
Mhm.
today most of us probably don't talk to our neighbors, at least in urban settings. So
Yeah, unfortunately. And then what you just brought up, it reminded me of conversations I had with my grandfather, like when he grew up in, in the late 30s, early 40s in North Carolina, like how he didn't have to go to the supermarket for fruit. Like it just grew outside. Like he grew blackberries, like his, yeah, there was blackberries grown all across, like within his yard, his neighbors, they like he would just could go to his neighbor's house and pick apples from the tree whenever he wanted to. It was just a different world back then, you know.
yeah, it's kids could just basically forage for their lunch while they're running around. And yeah,
Hmm.
hopefully we can kind of bring some of that stuff back. But it's a
Hmm.
it's a convenience trade-off as well, and it's a cultural
Right.
shift, mindset shift. So yeah.
And yeah, definitely a mindset shift. Mindset shift for real, because people got to be, for one, even care about like what they're ingesting anyway to even want to partake in this. But yeah, nonetheless, it's very important, and I'm glad that you guys are building towards this. And Ryan, what is your ultimate goal for foam space, and would you consider it a DAO now, by the way? And also, how can people get involved in foam space like right now?
Not a DAO at the moment, but ultimate vision is to essentially, on the one hand, kind of fulfill the requests of even like a U.S. government to have like backups and alternatives to GPS. And after kind of looking at 10 different types of companies, the conclusion they came up with was there can't be a singular backup or alternative because GPS does too much. So there needs to be kind of a ecosystem of new solutions that work with industry partners. So want to see foam as a decentralized and open, lower cost option for these kind of new alternative positioning and navigation systems. So we want to see that playing a role in like industries at large, but also enable new use cases in blockchain that we haven't been able to think of yet. So hopefully this technology and proofs can bring things that none of us have thought of, and it unlocks kind of creativity and what have you. The best way
Oh yeah.
to kind of join our group right now is we're trying out Warpcast and Farcaster. So there's a foam channel
Hmm.
there and a foam chat, so you could directly get in touch with us there. But yeah, right from our homepage, foam.space, there's a waitlist for building a zone, but you can message us directly in the chat if you have like locations and you want to get started.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. So, yeah, if anyone is interested in getting started with Foam Space, feel free to reach out to them directly or check out their website and join the wait list or check them out on Warpcast as well. And on Warpcast, you said you have a foam chat, and what was the other channel?
There's a foam channel, so you could post in the channel.
Mhm.
There's also like a group chat there that we have a test one, but the next version will be NFT gated based on location proofs.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see all of the different projects build tools on top of Foam Space. And then before we go, Drew, can you share with our listeners today how exactly they can redeem some peaches? I would love to be able to try some.
Yeah, sure. Peachtycoon.com. Um, from there, you can purchase your own tree. We'll probably, in the next couple months, as we get closer to harvest time, we'll open the marketplace if you just want to come in and buy some peaches from a farmer. And then from
Oh, awesome.
there, yeah, we have a Telegram group, obviously Twitter, Peach Drop NFT, and yeah, connect with us, reach out, join the conversation for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us for episode 7 of Beyond PFPs. And thank you to everyone in the audience. going to end it now, but appreciate you all, and I hope you all have a great weekend. And the this episode will be on YouTube in a few weeks, and expect to see some short form clips on Twitter as well. I'll appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great day. All right, see you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, guys. Appreciate y'all.